Today I've got Traktor on the podcast, and he is a Westerner living in Minsk, Belarus, which is a destination that isn't frequently visited on the forum. A couple guys have been there. I know the Ligurian has been there, and I know Traktor has met the Ligurian. So I guess the first question off the bat that every guys want to know, Traktor, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? So the guys have an idea of who is on the other line.
Hello, 262, and good morning to you. Okay, just a bit about myself. I am from Ireland, from the Republic of Ireland, and I have been living and working in Minsk, Belarus for over 1 year now. That is the gist of it. I am working here. I'm teaching English here. Since I arrived here, but I won't say who I'm working for because I don't want to give it away too much.
That's fair. Can you say about roughly how old you are, or roughly how tall you are, like so guys can get a perspective of like where you're coming from a game perspective?
Okay, I'm approximately 5 feet 11 and a half inches tall, just short of 6 foot tall. I am in medium shape. I wouldn't say I'm athletically shaped, but I'm medium. I'm built, and I do plan to get back into shape for the summer. And at the moment, we have really nice weather here in Minsk. The temperature is up to about 26, 27 degrees centigrade. It's really nice here. So there are ample opportunities for guys who want to come here and explore the country, who want to get around the city of Minsk especially. It's a good city for that. You know, if you want to partake in numerous social or even sporting events like cycling, I mean, there are numerous and ample opportunities for that. I mean, you can go into a bicycle shop and you can hire a bicycle. Also, there are many gyms here. So this city here is quite good for facilities if guys want to partake in sports events or indeed in fitness activities and so on.
Interesting. Let me deviate from that, and I'll get back to that. But can you give us a rough idea of how old you are?
I'm 38 years old.
Okay. Just want to make sure give guys an idea of where you're coming at. So getting back to the cycling, though, that's very interesting because I'm actually interested in cycling. I wouldn't have guessed Minsk is a place for that. But are there a lot of is there a big cycling culture there, or?
Yeah, it's quite big here. I mean, about 5 or 6 years ago, the government here, the local government, decided to designate a number of areas in the city, pretty much all of the city, as a cycling zone. And if you're walking along, I mean, down the main street of Minsk, if you're walking along Prospect Nezavisimosti, you will see, one part of the path for pedestrians and the other part then for cyclists. So there are cycle lanes everywhere. If you go to the likes of Gorky Park or Yanka Kupala Park or Park Pobitelli, you will see cycle lanes everywhere.
Wow.
Yes. So it is a very cycle-friendly city, which is very unusual for Eastern Europe, especially for the FSU.
Yeah, for the FSU certainly. When I was in Kiev for the month, you were cycling on the streets, or that was it. You weren't cycling on the sidewalk. Poland is pretty good for cycling. You've got cycle lanes everywhere and whatnot, but a lot of that is obviously due to the European Union influence, where they're pouring money into the infrastructure here. But yeah, that's definitely something very surprising. You wouldn't think Minsk would have cycle lanes.
Well, the thing is that this government, they've gone very much into ecotourism over the last number of years, and the expansion of cycle facilities. Well, that's all part of their drive towards ecotourism. But it seems a bit odd at the same time because Belarus is an extremely hard country to get into if you are a Westerner. As you know,
Right.
All Westerners, people in the United States, North America, the European Union, they need a visa to enter Belarus. And the whole process can be quite problematic and so on. But, you know, in the end, it's definitely worth coming here. If you're from Russia or if you're from a Middle Eastern country, you know, it's visa free. But the whole process can be quite convoluted when you're applying for a visa, especially in my case. In the Republic of Ireland, I mean, there is no Belarusian visa in Dublin. So if you want to enter Belarus as a tourist, you have to go to London, the embassy in London, and apply from there.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Yeah, I remember talking to a few guys in Kiev who were, when I was there in August in Kiev, they were going to Minsk afterwards, and I think Ligurian was one of those guys, and he said to get the visa is you have to be invited, and then you have to register with the hotel, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like the Russian visa in a way. But I think the visa the tourist visa is not that expensive, if I remember correctly, right?
Sorry?
The visa itself is not that expensive, right? It's not like the Russian one.
No, it's not electronic. No, you have to go and physically fill it out. Because as well as that, you also needed the invitation as well from a hotel company or from an apartment company. So the whole process is quite bureaucratic and it's quite off-putting, and it can be hassling as well at the same time.
Gotcha. How long did it take you to get your visa?
Okay, as a tourist, if I wanted as a tourist, it would take me about, I could do it two ways. I could apply in the post from Ireland, from the Republic of Ireland, and that would take about 2.5 to 3 weeks. Okay, and if I was to go to London and apply in person, I would get it in about 5 working days.
Okay, so not too bad.
No, not too bad, but a lot of paperwork involved.
Yeah.
And as well as that, you need to have insurance and everything. If you're a UK citizen, it's easier, but not so if you're an Irish citizen.
Odd. Yikes. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing.
So let's see. To get some other context, where else in the world have you been? Have you been to Ukraine or Russia or Poland, or what other countries have you been to?
Yes, I tell you where I've been in Eastern Europe. Well, I lived in Bulgaria for 1 year as a student. I was studying with the American University in Leningrad, which was in southwestern Bulgaria, and I was there as part of the Erasmus program back in 2004, 2005, the EU Erasmus program, and I had a great year there, absolutely brilliant year. You know, I had a great time there. And met a lot of people, got into a long-term relationship with a local Bulgarian girl.
Nice.
And while I was there, then I explored other parts of the Balkans. For example, I went to Greece, and I was also in Macedonia. Spent quite a lot of time in Serbia, in Belgrade, which is, for me, is the best country in that part of the world, without a shadow of doubt. And also in Montenegro, as well. So as well as living in Bulgaria, and traveling around Bulgaria, tasting the food and the women, I also spent quite a lot of time traveling around and meeting different people and, coming into contact with the local culture. But for me in that part of the world, the best country is Serbia, without a doubt.
Nice. So let's get into some comparisons the guys are going to want to know right off the bat. So, not a lot of guys have been to Belarus, so let's see. The easiest comparison right off the bat, Belarus versus your native Ireland.
In terms of women?
Yeah.
I think in Ireland, for me it was easier, to get one night stand and so on. However, out here, particularly in this part of the world, the one-night stand culture It doesn't exist. Simple as that. It hardly ever exists. It doesn't exist. The women here are a lot more feminine, certainly a lot more beautiful than back home, and sweeter as well. Now, if you're going to date a Belarusian woman, my advice to you is to, don't rush into things. Just go along with it. Just take it nice and easy, because these women, they like to warm up first as they get to know you, and you should do the exact same thing to them. Don't rush into it. You will. I'm not saying that you won't get a one night stand, but the possibility of it happening is very, very slim. This is not Kiev, it's not Poland. But the women, they are sweet. When you put them up to the likes of Ukrainian or Russian women, Belarusian women, in terms of their character, they are the best amongst amongst Ukrainian and Russian women, in that regard. So personality-wise, they are absolutely sweet. They are feminine, and they are very, very beautiful women as well. But advice for guys is, don't rush into it. Just go along. Give her time to warm up to you, but at the same time, the man should lead. Right. This is the prerequisite in this part of the world. The man should lead. This is a patriarchal society, kind of like similar to what it is back home, but it's a bit more pronounced here in Belarus. The man leads. Be the man, and the women like directness.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
And you touched upon another interesting comparison there. You were saying that they were generally better than the Russian or Ukrainian women. I guess, can you elaborate more on that? How did they compare?
Well, if you're talking about looks-wise, I think that Ukrainian women would shade it in terms of looks-wise. If you're comparing women of the Slavic or the Trinity as Ligurian, would say. But yeah, Ukrainian women, they come out on top in terms of looks-wise, and also kind of, whereas in relation to easiness of getting the bang. But I think overall here at Belarus, when it comes to the overall package, now they're not as I would say. Now, if you were to put a Belarusian woman right next to a Ukrainian woman, you could spot the Ukrainian woman straight away in terms of her face. But I think if you're looking for a long-term relationship or wife material, Belarus is just hard to beat. That's just my opinion. Other guys might disagree, but that is my experience of being here for over a year.
Nice. Yeah, that's some good insight. I guess let's dig a little deeper into that. Is there a cultural reason why that might be? Maybe it's harder for it's harder for Westerners or something to get into Belarus, so it's more of an untapped market, or is it a more conservative culture than the surrounding countries? Like, what is it that makes them that way?
I think it's a combination of all of these factors, because when you think about this country is a closed country. Okay, it's not very easy for Westerners to come in, and you have to also factor in that Belarus was part of the Soviet Union for the best part of just over 75 years.
Right.
So it was a closed country. Minsk was a closed, for the most part, was a closed city. This was closed. I mean, when it was the USSR, tourists, they went to the likes of Moscow or Leningrad, or down to the Black Sea. This part of the country was closed off. So over the years, I think an enclosed conservative mentality developed as Belarus was cut off from the rest of the world. You also have to factor in the historical reasons as well for that, historical factors. I mean, for example, we obviously had the Second World War, and every town and city from Berlin to Moscow was completely leveled, pretty much, between that period, 1941 to 1945. So, just a whole host of political and social factors as well come into it at the same time. Whereas in Ukraine, the mentality is a lot different. Why? I think they were much more opened up to the outsiders than, say, Belarus was, in the fact that you had towns like Odessa on the Black Sea. Odessa was always an open, liberal city. Lots of Jews. I mean, the Jews, they made up the local intelligentsia, basically. So it was always kind of liberal, and that kind of liberal attitude kind of seeped into Ukrainian culture, the mindset. And also I think Ukrainians, they have this kind of mindset of, I don't give a shit, who cares kind of thing. Whereas here in Belarus, it's not so much like that. People here, I find Belarusians less open and less friendlier than, say, Ukrainians and Russians.
Wow.
Here, the people, well, they are curious, and, they are nice people. They are very laid back, very kind of calm people, Belarusians are. However, I wouldn't say that they are as open as, say, Russians or Ukrainians. That is my experience of dealing with it. And I say, when people say, "Why is that?" I'm just giving you the reasons of that.
It's probably a question you may or may not be able to answer. I guess the obvious next forum question is almost practically a troll question, but I guess, how do you think men of other races would do?
Okay, we're going into troll territory here.
Yeah.
How do men of other races here do? Okay, well, there is a case of double standards here when you apply this criteria, this question to men of other races. I mean, for example, it's a well-known fact that Belarusian, Ukrainian women, when they go to Turkey, I wouldn't say they slut it up on the resorts. I'd say they do have a holiday fling here and there. But when they come back here, they do not want to be seen with a guy of Arab or Turkish appearance. However, now there are Arabs and Turks here. There are a few Arabs and Turks here, quite a lot more than, say, Westerners. I mean, there are practically very few Westerners here, but quite a few Arabs and Turks here. But I have seen local girls, with Arab and Turkish guys, but when it comes to the whole racial thing, I think Belarusians are not as xenophobic on race matters as, like, for example, Russians are or Ukrainians. Yeah. So they're a bit more open on that regard.
Okay.
More tolerant people.
Okay, that's some good insights. That's interesting to say. I didn't know that. That makes sense, though, that it's the middle. You said before that Middle Easterners can come to Belarus visa-free, so it's like it's the same situation as in Ukraine. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, for example, I was out last night in Minsk. I was on a date last night, and I was in a place called Food Republic. And it's quite a big kind of complex of bars and restaurants, and it's owned by a Turkish company. When I went there with my date, we went out onto the balcony. It's quite a nice evening yesterday, quite warm evening. And this place is located next to the Svislach River and to Yaskupala Park here. And there were quite a lot of Turks and Arab guys there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they can all, Turks and Arabs, they can come here visa free.
Right.
And I know the Ligurian very well, and he studied here in a university here about 2 years ago. He studied Russian here, and quite a few of his mates were Turks. So they come here pretty much hassle visa free. But for us Westerners, it is a lot more difficult for us to get here.
Gotcha. Okay.